Today we are talking about making more money as a contractor. So making more money as a contractor or someone or anyone in the construction industry, doesn't matter whether you are doing any form of construction. This works for most people. There are generally two ways to make more money, and the first one is about revenue. A lot of people are going to say that today, last year, we have increased our revenues by 50%, by 100%. We moved from $1 million to $3 million, whatever revenues. That is one of the ways to make money. But revenues alone do not tell the whole picture. That is why you need to understand the next part, which is lower costs. You can actually make more money by just lowering your costs while retaining your current revenues. And a lot of people don't understand that lower cost and more revenues, sometimes they are not related. Sometimes your revenues can increase without necessarily increasing your costs. And I will tell you why and how these kind of things do happen. Because let's say, for example, you have 5 employees on contract and you do 5 projects this year. Let's say you do 5 projects this year. And next year, you do, with the same number of employees on contract, you do 6 projects. The revenues that you're going to get from this extra project are still covered by the capacity that you have with the 5 employees. So this is all a matter of efficiency. So sometimes if you are more efficient, or maybe you are currently carrying extra capacity, it means you are incurring more costs. But that extra capacity puts you in a position to make more revenues or take in more projects. And those more projects now become pure profit because you are carrying extra capacity at lower performance than what you are delivering at that time. So the challenge here is being able to do both. Being able to increase your revenues while also keeping your revenues, your costs in check. So the only way to do that is, for example, most importantly, to understand your revenue sources and to understand your costs, every head of your cost, to understand how your costs relate with your core performance of the business. Because some costs are just going to be there whether you are increasing your capacity or not. Some costs tend to almost not, they're not elastic, they're just inelastic. For example, if you've already acquired machinery, but the cost of maintaining this machinery, for example, if it was acquired on loan, this cost of servicing that loan is almost inelastic. It's going to be there. So understand your revenue and understand your cost, your vote heads for each and every cost that you have, and be mindful of able to pursue those projects that can increase, that will take that extra capacity. If you are not, then you need to scale down your capacity. But if you are actively pursuing a bigger, better project or more projects, you can seek to continue increasing your capacity. So with revenue, I tend to use this, it's one of the most well-used rule, the 80-20 rule. What you want to do is to understand all your services, and then you're going to list down those services based on the service that brings you the most money and the service that brings you that is easiest to deliver for your team. So you want to have a service that is very easy for your team to deliver, that it is in your leverage area, that it is in your best capacity, that when your team gets that project, it feels natural, that their delivery is immaculate, that is where you have an advantage over everyone else. You want to look for that service because every service that meets that criteria, that it is the delivery is comfortable delivery and has the margins. Any service that meets that criteria continues to be offered. You're going to list down those services that are just milking you or those that are giving you joy. Any service that is profitable, you do more of it. You do more marketing of that service. You increase capacity for that service. Any service that is a drain, these services that are at the bottom, they are not giving you, like, they're just there. You start reducing them. In fact, one of the ways of increasing your revenue is by reducing the number of services that you are doing, that you are offering. Because the reason why people are going to buy more from you is because you are very good at what you do. And is there a chance that you are very good at doing so many things? That is why a company that offers just one service tends to have so many people seeking that specific service. They don't come to tell you to do more. No, they don't. They come because they specifically want that specific service. So one way of increasing your revenue is by ensuring that you're only doing those services that you are really good at and that they have the margins. So before you pick a service and you call it a core service, you need to look at its total addressable market. How big is that market? Because some services are just going to be, yes, they are there, but you can only get maybe one or two in a year. That is not a good addressable market. If you want that addressable market to be big enough, then they should have the correct margins. That is this service. Are you able to set the margins for this service? And the last one is the entry point. What does it require for you to really enter into that market? If the entry is difficult, that's not a great service. If the margins are diminished, then that's not a great service. If the total addressable market is low, then again, that is not a great service. So a great service would have a decent total addressable market, a decent total market that you can actually get, and decent margins. So, and the only way to do that is for you to know the market, know the clients, know the market, know what they are looking for. And that is how you're going to probably be able to get better clients. Better clients means you need to understand the whole buyer journey of your clients. Because if you understand the buyer journey, you will know when to address them, where to find them. Because today, I can walk to someone and make them buy an apartment complex, a block of apartments. Why? Because probably they have 40 million somewhere in a money market fund. And I'm going to tell them, if I had 40 million, I would do this instead. And the next minute, this person is buying a block of apartments with that 40 million. So I need to understand the buyer journey, that some people are not even in the market to buy at that particular time, but I am educating them. Am I positioning myself to be able to educate people that already have money to make them do the things that I want them to do? So understand the buyer journey of the services that you sell. Understand every other aspect of that buyer journey. Understand that there is also another client who can buy that same block of apartment, but they are actively doing that. They have bought a piece of land, they have the money, they want to deploy that capital to construct that block of apartments. That is a different person, the buyer journey is different from the other person that I had to convince them that this is what I want them to do. There is also another person, corporate entity, a group of people that have been saving and they now have 50, 60 million and they don't want that money to stay in our savings account. That is another different buyer journey. A different approach is going to be required to bring that type of client. All these are very good clients, but you're not going to get those good clients to increase your revenues if you do not know their buyer journey. And the last one option that you can use to increase your revenues, usually it is charging more. But who are you going to charge more? You charge more because of specialization. Specialization is, for example, a case of someone who does maybe interior designs, that they have been showing you the kind of projects they have been doing for so long, to a point where if you hear someone talk about interior design, or you hear someone having a conversation about interior design, the only name that comes into mind is you. When you have reached that level, you have reached a level of specialization, you have reached a point of that not just being considered. To some extent, you're probably the only option that these people have. So when you have reached that level, then you command the price. You do not take the price. You charge people based on your reputation, your name, your brand. So there is that premium that you add. You no longer take the 10% or the 15% industry standard. You go for the kill. Specialist companies charge up to 50%, give themselves up to 50% margin, some even more. And they do it, and they will continue doing it because they are so good at putting information out there about themselves. It's not like they offer the best builds. It's not like they do better than you do, but they are very good at selling. They are very good at putting that information out there that this is what we do, this is how we do it. They show you doing it, and you like the work. And they are good at their job, but they are not necessarily the best, but they command that premium. So those are some of the ways how you can increase revenue. So remember, sometimes to increase revenue, you need to get rid of your losers and be left with your winners. Because if you're left with your winners, you can actually specialize. And if you can specialize, it means you can command premiums, brand premium pricing. With costs, there are three things that I talk about when it comes to cost. Doing more jobs is one way of cutting costs. I have given you this example before, that if you have a team of 5, but your capacity at that time maybe is 10 projects, and you're only doing 5, means a lot. You are spending your cost. You're spending on money that you shouldn't be spending on. But if you're able to do 10 projects, you are actually doing fine. But if you're doing 5 projects instead of 10, it means a lot of cost, unnecessary cost here. So one of the ways to diminish the cost, because this is not a reduction of cost, the cost remains, but you diminish its impact on your margins, on your money. The last thing that you want, so your money. So one of them is doing more jobs, and the only way to do more jobs is to do more marketing, get more referrals, get more inquiries, get more interest, get more customers, get more choices. And ultimately, when you have all these, you have a choice to pick who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. Anyone that is able to afford you, you can work with them. But there are so many people now showing interest in your job. So you need to do more marketing. Put yourself out there more. Doesn't matter which method you think is works for you, whether it's adverts, influencers, content marketing, videos, social media, whatever you use to go to marketing, go there, sell to more people. The other one is scaling on demand. Instead of just having idle capacity, you can scale on demand. And one way of scaling on demand is to maybe work with subcontractors and independent contractors. And it's an inconvenience, but you can scale on demand until to a point where you are permanent. When you scale permanently, you are scaling because you have the capacity. You are preparing for capacity that you are seeking to acquire. For example, if you are able to actively have 2-3 projects running, it means you can have an in-house team. If you have those signature projects coming in regularly, it means you can have a regular team working on this project. I have talked about this in other videos about how scaling on demand versus using subcontractors can become an inconvenience. So also check that out. And the last one is ironclad contracts, because they give you very little exposure and costs that are going to be related to those exposures. You have a contract, for example, with your team. The salaries, their remuneration is very fixed. You have contracts with your suppliers. You have bought maybe futures into the futures. You actually buy maybe supplies in futures. So you are controlling costs. So you can actually be able to, for example, let's say you have 5 projects that you have already signed contracts with that are going to run for the next 3 years. That is a very good way of knowing that you really need to buy to get into a contract for future supplies. It doesn't matter whether the price is going to go up or down. You're going to be supplied at the price that you have set at that particular time. So all those cut costs, and they help you maintain your margins and your ability to make more money. And margins, like I've said, will come from winners, losers. Get rid of losers, work with winners. Your best service, the one service that you have an advantage of, that you have, like you control a lot of aspects of that service. You need to drop some of the services that are not winning. You need better jobs and better clients. Like I have said, the only way to do that is to do more marketing, so that you have more inquiries, more people wanting your business, more people interested in your service, more people wanting to work with you, and they have to meet your price point. You also need very accurate estimates. This is one of the things that actually destroys a lot of business profitability. People have extremely poor, accurate, very poor estimates. Like someone is just going to casually do the estimates and they don't like get into it and do proper estimation. And also the last one is doing fewer mistakes, and that means perfecting your service, being very good at what you do. This is some of the ways that you can make more money for your construction business. And thank you for watching.